Hello and welcome to another video. And to be honest with you, up until about 10 minutes ago I wasn't actually going to make a video for this Tuesday, and I think I got a little bit disheartened by the lack of views my last couple of videos have done. And I think that's mainly because the amount of research that went into them, and I was feeling a bit down and blah blah blah, and I wasn't going to do one. And then I was reading your comments, and yeah, it just made me do it for yous. And I do enjoy doing these, and I've got to remember that I'm not doing this for the views. I'm doing it to put those stories out there. Yes, it's nice to get a lot of views and all that, but you know, thank you for your comments. The support you showed me on the asylum video was incredible, and I'm glad you think that I sort of done it sort of justice in a sensitive way, and the terminology I used in that is what was used at the time. I know I've actually explained that once, but a couple of times actually in there, but yeah, it's unfortunately that is where we were back then, and we have moved on. Today's video is, I always say it's different, but it may not be as long as the normal videos. This is based on an investigation we did as Folk Paranormal, and what happened 2 weekends ago, or last weekend, was around friends' houses, and Dave, who was on our team, it was his house, and we were talking about our past investigations. And I asked him, you know, about ones that had affected him personally, and he mentioned this one, and we sort of covered it in a little bit, but we normally talk about the other Rayleigh video, and this is the other Rayleigh investigation we did. Very similar when we had the Stephen Elaine and mediums come along. I'm not sure if we had a full team that night. I think there might have been a few of us. Where this investigation went, we had the couple, we had Kevin and Claire Williams contacted me, and they had to tell me some details about their family, and then I agreed that we would take our mediums around there and do a little investigation. This is a sweet but sad story, so I'm not going to say prepare yourselves, but no, this involves children, and ghost children, and sometimes when you talk about that, people do get upset. So when we went there, first thing we noticed as you go to the house, it looks modern, but then you notice it's got like cobble floors, and they'd had a few things like doors banging and all this sort of stuff had happened. But then they told us that their 6-year-old daughter had passed away. They were looking to see if their daughter was back in the house, and the mediums went around there and they'd done the investigation, and they said they think that the daughter is trying to contact them, and that is how that investigation that night went. When I left, the mediums were going to go back and do another reading with them, and that's how I left it. A few months after that, I contacted the family again with the video footage we had taken on night and some tape recordings, just because they wanted to keep a copy of them. And that's what I thought where this investigation was going to end. So to do this story justice, we are going back to 1871, an old house just outside of Rayleigh. What we have in this house is a family that is consisting of the mum and 2 daughters. One daughter hardly lives there anymore because she is actually being married off to a farmer, and you have a 6-year-old daughter called Catherine, and the mum is Elizabeth. Now, Catherine is 6-year-old and her health is not very good. Catherine passes away at the age of 6, and only a few months after, the mum passes away of a broken heart. We get this a lot in when you go through death records. It's often listed as a broken heart, what this death was listed as. For the next 40 years, the house is passed back down through the family before eventually being sold off on the open market. Over the years, not much is said about this house, and no families have really gone in there to live. There've been sort of like couples or elderly family that have moved in there, and there's been no children in that house. No children moved into that house. And then we have hitting 2000, where we have the Williams family move in, and they have a 5-year-old daughter, and everything is absolutely fine. They love the house, and they find everything very, very comfortable there, and they start modernising it. Now, as I said to you before, when we first walked in, we noticed that it looked quite modern, but The flooring leading into the driveway was old cobbles. Moving into the kitchen, it was old cobbles. And there's original flagstones on the flooring now. And it just looks a very, very nice house. And it's one of those ones that you look at and go, oh yeah, I want one living here. It's nice. Now, it's a 3-bedroom house. It's not a massive house, but it was a comfortable family home. The Williams little girl, she'd only just turned 5. And she was just happily playing in the house, and they noticed that she had some odd behaviour. Sometimes she'd be talking to people that weren't there, and imaginary friends type of stuff. You know, those sort of things that kids get up to and talk to themselves. But then she was telling her mum that she sees this girl there, and the girl's mum is there looking after her. And obviously we know what I've just told you, that we're already thinking this is the ghost of this little girl who passed away and the mum. The parents don't know none of this. So what I'm about to tell you, you've already got the heads up on it, what this is going to turn out to be. One Sunday morning, the little girl is downstairs playing in the kitchen. The mum and dad are upstairs, and they're taking their time getting up. And they go down, and the child is playing quite happily, and she again is playing with her imaginary friend. They just leave her alone, and they go back into the living room. They're watching the telly when the fire alarm goes off. They run into the kitchen thinking that that's the only place where the fire could be, and that their daughter was in there. The daughter had managed to get a oven mitt tea towel wrapped around her neck on the oven door. There was no fire, but this tea towel, oven glove, had managed to get trapped around the daughter's neck. If that fire alarm hadn't gone off, something bad would have happened to the daughter. No fire was found in that house at all. This sort of made the parents think this was quite spooky, and they spoke to other people about it, and they go, well, some good guardian, got a guardian angel looking after her. And things like this happened a few other times as well. So there was another time when they were putting out the driveway, the little girl managed to get out of her seatbelt and was sitting up on the front of the car seat. As a car sped round the corner, the dad was about to put out the driveway and the car cut out. If that car hadn't have cut out, he would have hit that car coming past, and the girl was not buckled in the car. Things like this that you could see as a coincidence started adding up. Other things started to put the family on edge though, and that was the fact that when their daughter went to bed, she would say that the lady, the little girl that isn't alive, her mum would tuck her in. And the mum went, what do you mean by that? She goes, well, once you and dad have put me to bed, this lady appears and she folds my covers back down, kisses me on the head, and then goes out. And the parents are a little bit creeped out by this, and they sort of believe in ghosts anyway, so they're not spooked by this. They just think, perhaps we've got a friendly ghost in the house. Over the next few months, their daughter starts talking about the lady more and more. Then she says something to her mum that really freaks them out. She said that the lady come to her last night, once mum and daddy put her to bed, told her that she needs to ask her mum to take her to see a doctor. And the mum and dad are, we can take you to see a doctor. Where'd you come up with that? Because the lady told me that I've got to ask you to take me to a doctor. He says, why, do you feel ill, and is there something wrong? And she goes, well, not I know of. Nothing really happened over the next few weeks. Then the little girl started getting ill, and the parents did take her to the doctors. And it wasn't good news. She had a terminal illness, and they only gave her around about a year to live. And I said, this is a sad story. Over that year, the little girl would say that the ghost mum and the ghost child would come and sit in her room every night when she was up there. And if she woke up in the night, the mum and daughter were sitting in that room watching over her. And she said sometimes when she didn't feel well in the night, the ghost mum would come up and would damp her forehead down with a cold towel. Now, if you can imagine, this is the parents are devastated that they've had this news about their daughter, and they're trying to find all these experts, and she's in and out of hospital, all these tests being done on her, and there's not a lot they can do, and it is making her final year as happy as they could. And bizarrely enough, the girl was not very ill. Her symptoms were mild, but the illness was progressing within her body, so they were able to take her out for days out and do all this sort of stuff. By the time she got back, the ghost mum and ghost child were waiting for her at the top of the stairs, waiting for her to go to bed. In the last 2 months of the little girl's life, she used to like sitting out in the garden. While she was doing that, she would say that the little girl was in the garden with her, but in the form of a robin. And now this robin used to come in and out of the garden all the time, but when the little girl was there, it would sit on top of the fence and just quite happily be there with this little girl. Sometimes it would go so close to her that she could actually put her hand out and the robin would jump onto her hand. The little girl would turn around and say that it was her friend that would come in and sit down and talk to her in the form of a bird. And she told her mum that when she passes away, she wants to come back as a robin. And the little girl would spend a lot of her time drawing these robins and putting them up on her wall. The mum and dad were... they're distraught. They're distraught. They're not sure what this is with this ghost family that their daughter has. And they get the church coming, and the church are doing blessings for their little girl anyway. And they talk to them about what this little girl is going through and what she's saying that she's seen. And they're saying that it is maybe a form of a guardian angel, and that maybe God has sent somebody down to look after her and help her pass through into the afterlife, and all this comforting stuff that the church do. The parents were a little bit frustrated that they can't see anything their daughter is seeing. The mum one day goes up and sits in the bedroom all the way through the night, sitting there with her daughter, and she asks, "If you're here, show me you're here." And it happened. The mum turned around and said that she see the figure of a Victorian lady standing in the bedroom with this beautiful little girl while her daughter slept in the bed. And she said this Victorian lady just looked at her and was very sad, and she had a tissue in her hand, and she's clasping the tissue in her hand, and then she turned around and offered a hand out to the mum and then faded away. The mum wasn't scared by this. She wasn't freaked out. She took a lot of comfort in it. She took on board what the church said, that these entities, these ghosts, these spirits were there to look after her daughter. Unfortunately, only a few months after that, their daughter passed away. And nothing sort of like weird happened or anything like that. They were distraught, went through the sadness and grieving period. They finally cleared their daughter's room out, but they kept a few of her stuffed teddies and they had them at the top of the stairs. They had another child, and that child was 5. And some weird things started to happen, and that is when they called us at the time for paranormal. Clearly the parents were worried that something was going on and that their child could get ill and all this sort of stuff. And the trigger was that these teddies, even though they were at the top of the stairs, some mornings they'd come in and they'd be at the bottom of the stairs. Other times they'd be up on the windowsill. These teddies kept moving around the house. Other times they'd find them out in the garden. They'd get up in the morning and the teddies would be out in the garden. And they wanted to know if this is their daughter trying to communicate with them, or is this the spirit mum and daughter trying to communicate with them. And this is where you come into this tricky situation that I found tricky, is that they wanted to do all the tests that we do in paranormal investigation, temperature and everything. And you feel uncomfortable telling them that if you're not picking up anything, you don't want to turn around and say, no, not getting nothing. Because their emotions, they want us to turn around and say, this is your daughter trying to communicate with you. When we may be sitting out knowing that the reason your door's popped open is because your heating pipes are going around the room, and when it gets hot, everything's expanding or shrinking, and the door's popping open. These are the tricky situations you get put in that sometimes you don't want to tell the truth in case it upsets them. They want that spiritual answer that sometimes you can't provide. And on this occasion, all the tests we done, apart from EMF, were coming back pretty normal. There was some high EMF on the stairs, and there's a high EMF out in the garden. We went through, say, Dave's the electrician, he went through, there's no power cables there, there's nothing that could trigger that high reading. And again, I know people poo-poo things like EMF readings. I find it great for finding electrical sources that, I always go back to the Belling investigation where people were getting these weird dreams, waking up with people sitting on the end of the bed, and when we go there with the EMF reader, it's going crazy. That's because I've got a wrought iron bed, and behind the wall is the fuse box. So all that electricity is stimulating the brainwaves all night. Before I arrived there, I had a meeting with the family and asked them why they wanted to do this investigation. And I was the only person on these investigations that ever knew any of the history before the team turned up. And what triggered it, finally asking for an investigation, was that one morning they got up and the teddy bear was outside in the garden. And when I went out into the garden, there's 2 robins sitting on the teddy bear. Over the next week, 2 robins would come and sit outside the window every time the mum was doing the washing up. One of the robins would jump up onto the window right by literally a pane of glass away from the mum and would stand there watching her. Every time this happened, the mum was in tears, absolute floods of tears. She wanted to know if this was her daughter coming back. Now, I brought the mediums in there, and I'm sceptical about mediums. And Steve and Lane knew nothing about this house. They walked in, and the first thing Elaine said was that, one, the house has a presence within it. Steve said he's picking up a little girl. Elaine turned around and said, no, I'm going back older than that. I'm picking up a mum and a little girl. Between them, within 4 minutes of walking through that door, they'd identified the 3 people that we just spoke about. I'd say my hands up with mediums. I don't know what to say about them. There are some massive fakes and frauds out there when it comes to mediums and people doing readings. I know how it works. Now, if I meet you, I can give you a reading and you'd walk away thinking I'm a medium. No, I just know how it works to trick people enough to think that I can go into their past or tell the future. And Darren Brown, what he does, if you know how to do it, it's easy. With Stephen Elaine on that night, I was gobsmacked, absolutely gobsmacked. I still don't know what to think about it. And I got told more of these details after, when I went back. They didn't tell us the full story in the night. It was only when I went back, they said they need to be honest with us and tell us what happened. They told me everything. They've got an old child. And the child has grown up. So nothing happened to that child. But with what Stephen Lane done in their second reading, when they went back, again, Stephen Lane didn't know anything apart from what he picked up on the first night. They turned around and said that they was picking up that this other girl was their daughter. And she just wanted to let them know that she was okay. And that she's found a new family there that are looking after her. I know this is stretching that believability. This comes from your normal family. This normal family have gone through tragic events, absolute tragic events. And if ghosts are real, let's hope this is a real ghost. The story is touching, it's emotional. I've left little bits out of it, some details out of it. I want the family to be left alone. They've had grief in their life, but I just found that this story, as I say, I was going to tell it anyway. I said about the sweet ghost. The little girl was very, very sweet, and unfortunately she passed away. But she met another sweet friend and a sweet mum that went off and looks after her in the afterlife, if that's the way you want to look at it. But yeah, again, I just want to say thank you for your support. I know this isn't a longest video that I've done, but again, I've put all the monks out there, so the monks are posted off. Let me know when you receive them. Hopefully they'll be by the end of this week, but it's Royal Mail, who knows. I post them via my local post office. You'd be lucky if you can get them, so that's another story. But again, thank you for your support. Thank you so much for your kind comments. They're really, really touching, your comments recently. And yeah, thank you so much. Your support is keeping me going, making these videos and getting them out there. Anyway, keep well, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.